to my channel. So for today's video, as you can tell by the title, I am doing a sort of what I read in my first year of uni, quite a lot. Still got quite a lot of them up there, but this is just sort of the snippet of the ones that I enjoyed. But yeah, I'm just going to go through some of the books that I really enjoyed reading, and yeah, let's get into it. The first one, which I completely forgot actually, is Harry Potter. Nothing else needs to be said about that, to be honest. And the next one is this, White Teeth. Now, it took me ages to read this. I was not a fan of it when I was reading it, but since going back over it, it was actually once I got halfway through and then picked it up reading again. Yeah, I really did enjoy it. I would recommend. It's a very hefty read and it's really hard to follow, and there's a lot of book for not a lot happening. However, the key parts about it are just really good, and I'm using this for one of my final pieces in one of my modules, so that's how much I enjoyed it. The next one is a bit of an interesting one, and to be honest, I don't think I would ever read anything else from this genre, but it's called Wetlands by Charlotte Russe. Pretty sure that's how. It's a very inviting cover, it's a very busy cover, and the avocado on the front. I don't think I could ever look at avocados again. If you read this book, you will definitely know why. But I'm not going to give anything away because, quite frankly, it's not PG. And to be honest, I would actually read this again because it's so strange and so gross and so weird and weirdly sexual, but not sexual at the same time. It's just the weirdest book you could possibly ever read, and you can't help but love it. And like it says on the front cover, this is a Marmite book. You either love it or you just can't stomach it. You just sometimes, you know, there were points in this where I did gag a little bit. But anyway, that's that one. I would recommend if you're intrigued, I would read it. It's very eye-opening. The next one to go alongside this, considering these are all from the same module, they are very interesting books as a whole. Passions of New Eve. Now, this is a very short book, but if you see the inside of it, so many words on the page. This again is an interesting one. Again, very eye-opening, and again something which kind of opens you into a world where you would never really want to go in books, or you would never think a book could take you, but this definitely takes you there. And it's in a way it's kind of sad, but in a way it's also yeah, I actually think it's quite sad, just because of what happens. And this he was a guy and then he's not a guy anymore. It's just a very traumatic experience for this person, and yeah, it's there's a lot of cults and all of that stuff. So if you don't like the idea of a cult, I wouldn't read this. And if you, yeah, it's, as you can see by the title, the front cover of it, this does tell you quite a lot about the book. There's a lot of what's in it is on the front cover. And the next one, which is a little more light-hearted, is The Circle. Now, this is basically about The Circle is a community where people work. It's like social media. It's kind of a new way of looking at social media, so everyone needs to be part of The Circle because, you know, all of this stuff. It's interesting. There is a film about it and Emma Watson is in it. Oh, I do like the film. It is quite boring. The book itself, I think the book is a lot better than the movie, but because obviously something happens all the time. However, this book is also again very eye-opening to a way of looking at the harmful effects and the potential of social media and what social media could eventually get to, and the way that he writes it is just kind of how we see social media at the moment. And considering, I don't even know when this was actually published, I can't remember, but yeah, it's quite scary how when he wrote it he thought of this idea, and like now living in our 2021 lives you can see it happening. I would recommend, if you want a eye-opening way of seeing social media. The next two are from my children's literature. Well, the next four actually. The next four are from my children's literature module. So we have Pippi Longstockings. Now, Pippi Longstockings is just a weird and wacky girl, to be honest. She lives all the things that I wish I could have done as a child and I wasn't ballsy enough to do. I'm sure a lot of you have read this as a child, and I didn't even realise that it was Swedish until I did my lecture about it. She is a role model that all children need, and I wish I had as a child. She's so careless, this girl, and I just love her, to be honest. I want to be more like Pippi. The next one is a classic by a classic children's writer. I do love a good Michael Morpurgo book. I used to love his Casper book. I loved his, was it The Butterfly Lion? I never read Warhorse, sadly. There's a few others that I read from him. So I knew I wasn't going to be disappointing, and I knew that this would be a good book, but I just think this book is so sweet. And I actually think if I read this as a child, I think it would have made me cry. But anyway, that's that. Another one of my children's books that I read was a classic, Matilda. To be honest, I don't like Matilda. I never have, never will. So this was a bit of a kind of book, but I thought I'd share it anyway because it's interesting. I like watching these videos, so there is that one. Another one that I read, which to be honest I wouldn't class as children's literature. I would class it very lightly as children's literature, is Little Women. But yeah, I think these three girls are very inspirational. Another one which isn't really a book, of course it's a book. Another one that isn't really like a, I don't know. This, I'm just gonna say this. So this doesn't take a very typical book like stance, but this is a very, again, eye-opening book. So this is a collection, because it's called Citizen and American Lyrics. So basically I can see each chapter has just either statements, paragraphs or something, and they're all not related in a way, but they do all have the same message behind it, so they do end up being sort of a thing. But this one is again the inequality around black women and black people in general. There was one about Serena Joyce and her skirt, and her people were shoving, hold on, there's a photo, I'm sure I've seen the photo. Yeah, so people shoving like towels and stuff in their boobs and their bum to look like Serena Joyce when they were one. Like, I think that's really, really rude, if I'm honest with you. As you can see, I've sticky noted this, and I think this is a book that I will actually keep, because I think it's I think it states a lot of things that society aren't dealing with. So if you want one to do with like the whole concept of like Black Lives Matter and like seeing, like, reading something that you might not have potentially have like thought about, I would highly recommend. I then have some classics, because one of my first modules was myth and folk tales, so it was old literature. I'll tell you that, I did not like that module. However, I read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is all. I used this in one of my assignments. Reason why I liked this is because of Merlin. Because I'm pretty sure there's a character called Sir Gawain in Merlin. Maybe completely wrong. It follows people at the round table and all that stuff, so a lot of it was quite similar to something that I'd watched, but wasn't, if you know what I mean. So yeah, loved it. I didn't love it, it was hard to understand, but once you understood it, loved it. And then I kind of have saved kind of the best till last, but you know, that's only because of my obsession with, I would say, yeah, I would call it obsession with this TV series Once Upon a Time. Now, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, but the episodes were based on this grim fairy tales. But when I read the ones that I read for my lecture and the ones that I used for my assignment on this, they just give me Once Upon a Time vibes, honestly. I just didn't really quite realise how many different ways you could interpret like typical nursery rhymes and stuff, and typical stories and stuff, I don't know. It's hard to explain. However, this was Once Upon a Time written all over. I wouldn't recommend buying it because it's a huge ladder trucker. However, these are grim fairy tales, as it states, and they are interesting to say the least. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that little video. I need to go and carry on with some uni stuff. Thought I'd do this as a little break, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.